Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, a UPSC English Literature optional faculty, and today I am here with another part of the Renaissance period which we were discussing, and that is part 3. Over here we'll be discussing, focus would be primarily more on Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, because we know Shakespeare, the quintessential figure of the Renaissance period and the legendary figure who is still relevant. Okay, so again I'm telling all of you that guys, this book, The Routledge History of English Literature, is very seminal for all the students who not only want to go ahead with your preparation for English literature subject, but yes, a socio-political cultural aspect कि what was happening in England at that time, बहुत seminal work है. Okay, so of course the whatever the politics of England at that time has influenced largely the global world politics, and it still influences in some way or the other because of the idea that because of the fact that we are post-colonial countries ruled by England for the longest period of time. So considering all of that, आज हम लोग पढ़ेंगे Renaissance, William Shakespeare and the works, the socio-political, cultural and किस तरह से शेक्सपियर के जो प्लेज हैं वो कैसे बनते थे, किस तरह से सेटअप होते थे, what were the theatrical aspect and everything. Okay, so let's go ahead with a very charged up lecture, and that is on William Shakespeare, right? Okay, so talking about the first, and that is Shakespeare life, works and key. बहुत सबने देखी होगी शेक्सपियर की वाली पिक्चर. I'm just showing it to you guys again. And general view. So when we talk about this, okay, all these notes are again from Routledge History of Literature. All these, everything is from this book. So I'm just telling you the legitimacy of the notes here. कि मैंने सारे इसमें से बनाए, कुछ David Duchess से points लिए गए हैं. So yes, this is a very authentic work that we are talking about here. Okay, so philosophical insight. जो philosophical insight explores human nature, morality and existence. Okay, so we talk about Shakespeare. Okay, I'll just give you the details that we know that Shakespeare was born 1564 to 1616. This is the birth year and death year of Shakespeare. And 1590s onwards, Shakespeare started writing the plays after university wits जो थे, जो जितने मैंने second part पढ़ा रेनेसा का, उनको everybody must be knowing what I'm talking. So just telling you again कि university wits के बाद it was Shakespeare that came up on the stage. So 1592 onwards, he started writing plays, and then there was no stopping to that. He continued writing historical plays, romantic plays, tragic plays, and ultimately the problem plays also came, and these were the plays that he started continuing writing. Okay, so 1611 tak he wrote, the last play that he wrote was Tempest. Okay, 1611 tak play likha hai, and by the time retirement le liya tha because he got so rich. Okay, he had no need to work, and he continued. Interestingly, you know, Shakespeare ki koi bhi work was not written to be read. He hardly wrote his work. उसके जो lines है ना, लोगों ने लिखे हैं, and वो कभी कभी तो on spot lines लिखते था. ये नहीं कि उसने पहले text लिखा, उसके बाद उसका जाके दे रहा है. So all these works that we're discussing were primarily meant to be performed. Shakespeare never had even imagined that the popularity he would have gained over the years would be so much कि आज हम लोग उनको UPSC के लिए पढ़ रहे होंगे. Okay, anyway, so famous line from Hamlet: what is a man if his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed a beast no more? So this is basically talking about the philosophy of Shakespeare. Shakespeare ने अक्सर अपने plays में, characters में अपनी खुद की life philosophy दी थी, for which he still is so relevant. Okay, so what did he talk about? He said, what is a man if his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed? What is the use of that man's existence if all he wants to is eat and sleep? बस क्या खाना सोना है, हम लोग दुनिया में आए हैं. And a beast no more. He's just an animal and nothing else. So do you have, as humans, you have so much more to do in life. Change the society around you and be a good person yourself and everything. So this is again a full of wisdom line that was a philosophical insight through which Shakespeare is saying through Hamlet. Now, range of heroes and themes. Shakespeare has had the widest range of heroes, themes, villains, heroines in his plays. This is the reason, again, relevance unka itna profound hai. Diverse heroes, historical kings, Henry V. That's just one example of the Henry V, Richard III, and so on. Tragic figures, Macbeth, King Lear, Hamlet, Othello. Okay, romantic leads, Romeo Juliet, and then you have Merchant Venice में, A Measure for Measure में, Midnight Summer Night's Dream में, you know, so many of your romantic leads. Themes evolve from kingship and history to the exploration of human emotions and philosophical dilemmas. So yes, be it philosophical dilemmas, be it insightful experiences, be it your episodes that involve monarchy, kingship, everything is discussed in great detail by Shakespeare, and with very minute. This is the reason कि जिनका variety है, characters का range है, that's unprecedented, it's unparalleled. Nobody in the history of literature has ever produced so much of variety, okay, as much as Shakespeare has done. All right, moving ahead, you have theatrical career. He wrote 37 plays. If we talk about the figures, 37 plays इन्होंने लिखे हैं, 37 plays, 154 sonnets, and a few long poems over 24 years. So 24 years के career में Shakespeare wrote such prolific work, 154 sonnets and 37 plays. That's a huge level of work that he did. And he worked as a playwright, as an actor, as an innovator in dramatic form and stagecraft. Broad horizons, he influenced by voyages of discovery by Walter Raleigh, Drake, and others, explored both geographical and emotional frontiers. Okay, so he explored everything that was happening. अपनी storylines writers कहाँ से लेते हैं? They only mirror whatever is happening around them. So yes, whatever was mentioned, how जो भी उनका play होता था, perform होता था, it actually was a lens to the lens to the society. Okay, mirror to the society. So this was something that was very crucial. Then you have Shakespeare's plays. Let's talk about it in a very chronological manner कि Shakespeare के कौन-कौन से plays. So we know 37 plays हैं. Let's talk about some of the most important works. सबसे पहले हम लोग जब बात करते हैं early plays उसके कहाँ से शुरू होते थे? As I mentioned कि Shakespeare started writing around 1589. By the way, you know, Shakespeare के works पे अभी तक contestation होता है. You know, historical plays पे मतलब जो भी उनके writings हैं उनका date का concern होता है. However, categorize किया गया है कि इतने time period में इतना हुआ होगा. So around 1589 to 93, he started writing early plays. And early plays, a very safe bet. Historical plays, वहाँ से शुरू करोगे सबको पसंद आएगा. Okay, so King Henry VI, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 chronicles the War of the Roses. Now, War of the Roses 1485 में खत्म हुई थी. Henry VII जीते थे. And Richard III जो है हारे थे. तो King Henry VI, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 chronicles the War of the Roses. Titus Andronicus, a violent revenge tragedy. Again, this is early plays, बहुत पुराने revenge, historical plays. ये सब बड़ा safe bet होता था उस time पे. मतलब कि चले गए, entertainment के लिए चलेगा. तो playwrights हमेशा उससे शुरुआत करते थे ना कि जो थोड़ा सा नाम बन जाए उसके बाद तो हम experiment करेंगे. Right? Comedy of Errors, a farce involving mistaken identity. Again, a comedy. So he talked about history. He talked about a tragedy, revenge tragedy, and then he comes to comedy. Okay, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, again a romantic comedy with the themes of friendship and betrayal. And then The Taming of the Shrew, a controversial comedy about gender roles and marriage. And yes, King Richard III. By the way, King Richard III was the most hated figure of the Elizabethan period because he was like really very, very brutal in killing. छोटे बच्चों को मारा था उसने पूरी डायनेस्टी को वैनिश करने का उसने प्लानिंग प्लॉटिंग की. तो रिचर्ड द थर्ड के ऊपर जो उनका प्ले था दैट वाज अ फिनोमिनल हिट. ओके, व्हाई? बिकॉज द मोस्ट हेटेड फिगर. So historical play about the rise and fall of Richard III. Okay, so these were the early plays. As in उसने बस अपना करियर शुरू किया था, and this is how he started exploring writing the genres. Then let's talk about moving ahead. We have plays from 1593 to 1598. Okay, now we are coming to the second phase of his career, wherein he started writing King John. King John explore करता है political power struggles. Okay, Love, Labor, Lost इनका second phase में आया था. A witty comedy about love and language, Romeo Juliet भी second phase में आया था. The iconic tragedy of star-crossed lovers, we know that. Romeo Juliet की कहानी किसको नहीं पता है, right guys? So Midsummer Night's Dream, a magical comedy about love and mischief. This is a very interesting play, okay? बड़ा मजेदार प्ले है. डेड पोएट सोसाइटी अगर किसी ने देखी रॉबिन विलियम्स की, तो उसमें भी मिडसमर नाइट्स ड्रीम के ऊपर परफॉर्मेंस होता है, एक छोटा सा प्ले होता है. ओके, द मर्चेंट ऑफ वेनिस डील्स विद थीम्स ऑफ जस्टिस, मर्सी एंड एंटी सेमिटिज्म. Okay, so this is Merchant of Venice. All right, we all know Shylock. Okay, Shylock उसमें character होता है. King Richard II examines kinship and political failure. King Henry IV Part 1 and Part 2 introduces Falstaff and explores rebellion morality. You know, Falstaff was a very amazing character, a loved character by Queen Elizabeth I. क्वीन एलिजाबेथ I को इतना पसंद आया था फॉलस्टाफ की उन्हीं की वजह से उसने विंटर्स टेल में भी फॉलस्टाफ को रखा था, बिकॉज क्वीन एलिजाबेथ वाज लाइक लिसन राइट अनदर प्ले विद फॉलस्टाफ एज अ कैरेक्टर. सो यू नो Queen Elizabeth I was very well, you know, very inclined towards this character. He really liked it. The Merry Wives of Windsor, a comedic play featuring Falstaff in another one. All right. Okay. Then you have next. Plays from 1598 onwards with dates over here. Much Ado About Nothing, 1598 में romantic comedy filled with wit and misunderstanding. King Henry V, 1599 में celebrates patriotism and leadership. So we are coming towards the close of the 16th century, and these are the plays that he's talking about. King Henry V, Julius Caesar, As You Like It, Hamlet. Okay, अब Hamlet से उसने शुरुआत की थी अपनी tragedies की. Hamlet was the first tragic play, the tragic series play that he wrote. So, you know, series उसने tragic plays लिखे थे, and we'll come to that. So, yes, these are all considered much more mature work. Because, you know, of course, compared to the, you know, the earlier works, the artist, the dramatist gains maturity, the writer gains maturity over a period of time, and these are more of his well-versed plays, okay? Then we have... yeah, going ahead, 12th Night, 1601 में comedy of mistaken identity and love triangle, Troilus and Cressida, a dark and cynical take on the Trojan War. All Well That's End Well, 1603 में लिखा गया था dark comedy of ambition and love. Measure for Measure, 1604, a problem play that explores justice, morality and corruption. फिर आया इसका Othello. तो Hamlet के बाद जो tragedies ने लिखी है, after all these, you know, not so tragic work, you know, a romantic work, a comedy work. So Othello, tragedy of jealousy and betrayal, and then yes, King Lear, 1605, a heart-wrenching tragedy of familial conflict and human suffering. So King Lear or Tempest आपके UPSC के course में भी है, okay, optional subject के लिए. I've just recently finished teaching my students that, so I'm just telling you कि Tempest or King Lear है आपके course में. Then moving ahead to the next one. Okay, so the next is of course Macbeth आता है. उनका Macbeth was the last of his tragedy, and then Antony and Cleopatra, 1607, Timon of Faith in 1607, Coriolanus, 1608, a tragedy of pride and politics, another work tha inka. And then comes your late plays. Late plays matlab the set of last plays that he did. And Pericles, 1608, okay, Pericles was a romance of loss and redemption. Cymbeline, and that was romantic drama set in ancient Britain. The Winter's Tale, a tragic comedy blending jealousy and forgiveness. The Tempest, 1611, a magical tale of power. And the last play was King Henry VIII, a historical play co-written with John Fletcher. Okay, so King Henry VIII, the last play was written with John Fletcher, lekin the last play that Shakespeare wrote solely all alone, and that was The Tempest. Okay, all right. So now going ahead with our another aspect, and that is key themes across Shakespeare works. Let us look at some of the key themes that Shakespeare discussed. जो उनके thematic concerns, motives, issue होते थे, वो क्या होते थे? Kingship and power. As we see, the historical plays have been written with so much fervor, इतना ज़्यादा, बहुत popular होते थे, and of course, monarchy को impress करना होता था, तो historical work लिखना होता था, अच्छे से लिखना होता था, so that, you know, monarchy is like, चलो, good playwright was always wanted to be in the good books of Queen Elizabeth. So kinship and power explored in Henry IV, Henry V, Richard III, and Macbeth. Okay, so kinship and power, one very important theme. Always, जब भी monarchy होती, सबसे पहले मैं monarchy को impress करना होता, तो kinship and power के बारे में तो बात करेंगे. Love and relationship, okay, a theme that can never die down in any era. Love and relationship seen in comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream, As You Like It, and Romeo and Juliet. Ambition and betrayal, okay, again a very universal theme, okay, central to Julius Caesar, Othello, and Macbeth. So in themes में क्या क्या ambition दिखता है, betrayal दिखता है Othello में, Macbeth में and all. identity and transformation, themes of mistaken identity. Mistaken identity मतलब cross dressing बहुत होता था. You know that the boy is dressing like a girl, the girl is dressing like a boy. Yeah, As You Like It में बड़ा famous हुआ था. Okay, so themes of mistaken identity appear in 12th Night, Comedy of Errors, As You Like It, and of course existential reflection. Why am I in this world? What is my purpose and all? So deeply explored in Hamlet. Okay, so these were all the themes that you see in a lot different plays of Shakespeare. The early career of Shakespeare focused on English history. Starting point, historical context, the Elizabethan era, the year 1588. Now, when we talk about the socio-political condition of that era, the year 1588 marked the highest point, one of the highest point of Elizabeth I's reign. Why? With the defeat of Spanish Armada. Spanish Armada got defeated in the year 1588, which strengthened the naval army of England. And this was one of the reasons jahan pe England became one of the strongest countries in Europe, and establishing England as a dominant sea power. Naval army unka itna zyada strong ho gaya, and hence they were completely extremely powerful. So all the neighboring countries were scared of England कि हमें attack ना कर दे, इनसे ज़्यादा बच के रहो. So England was prospering, right? So Shakespeare began his career around 1589, focusing on English history. So one of the reason के when जब आपका देश prosper कर रहा होता है, so you want to glorify your land even further, right? So glorification के लिए क्या चाहिए होता है? हमें अपना history देखना होता है, history को और मजबूत present करना होता है, और खूबसूरत present करना होता है. So focusing on English history to reflect on the human aspects behind the rise to power. Okay, so this was a very integral point wherein he started talking about the historical aspect. Focus on English history. His early plays delve into England's monarchs between 1377 and 1488. This is the reason Henry IV, Richard III, Henry V, इन सब की बातें इसी time period में इसने किया था. Why? Because he wanted to impress the monarchy, strengthen the history of England by his works, and of course, this is the reason that he's talked a lot about the historical aspect, the monarchs of that period, and this examining their personalities and reigns. Okay, then you have history, plays, themes, and significance. As we talked about this, now historical setting. Let's talk about some of the history plays. So from Henry the Sixth, 1589 to 92 के period में लिखा गया है somewhere, to Richard II, जो 1595 में लिखा गया है, and Henry V, जो 1599 में लिखा गया है, Shakespeare explores the human dynamics of leadership and kinship. Okay, so how he is exploring, and that is the point. Okay, so the first thing is this. Dual purpose of the play. Of course, glorification of England's past. हमें क्या करना है? हमें अपनी national identity को strengthen करना है, तो हमें glorify करना पड़ेगा अपना past. And he's doing that. He celebrates with great characters. He celebrates England's history and national pride, humanizing the hero. Now, this is a wonderful thing. This depicts monarchs with virtues and flaws, making them relatable to audiences. Now, guys, imagine 600 years back time, wherein the monarchs and everything were considered as divine, sent by the divine power. Okay, so they had the divine power with them, as in उनको consider किया जाता था कि वो they are God sent. Now such kind of people were inaccessible. Okay, आप उनको touch नहीं कर सकते, आप उनको देखने के लिए crowds आते थे. तो imagine उनकी life stage पे portray करी जा रही है with human traits, and people like अरे ये तो हमारी तरह है. So why will that work not be a hit? People will love it. The moment you make anything relatable to the other person, that person takes interest, right? This is the reason the audience started liking Shakespeare's plays. Why? Because he humanized those characters, human elements डाले, characters features डाले, जो कि लगता था कि हाँ ठीक है कि हमारी तरह है. So kings are brought closer to their people, showing their struggles, decisions, their human traits and all. And this is the reason why the connection with the audience was made with so quickly. So plays were written for performance rather than exclusive reading. We know that Shakespeare was all interested कि मेरे plays को enjoy किया जाए. He had no idea that the plays will ever be read. And familiar history was dramatized, making it accessible to all classes. So ऐसे dramatization होता था history का that every class is relating, be it working class, be it nobles, be it the royal aristocracy class, the middle class. everyone associated and saw somewhere or the other their own traits in the characters, and that gave Shakespeare the edge. Okay, then so मतलब ये monarchs को ऐसे नहीं दिखाता था, larger than life नहीं दिखाता था, ये flawed characters दिखाता था, so that दिखे कि हाँ अगर इनमें flaw है तो हमारी तरह ही है, right? Now Renaissance drama and shifting power dynamics focus on human nature. Now, you know, with Shakespeare bringing such kind of stage performances where in the monarchs, the kings and queens, they were shown with human traits. Of course, focus kahan pe aaya? Human nature pe. So the Renaissance drama moved away from medieval religious themes on to explore the human flaws, human virtues, human nature. Shakespeare examines qualities like ambition, heroism, leadership, greed, power, money, authority, okay, through the lens of historical figures. So this was a very key aspect. Rebellion and authority, the Earl of Essex revolt highlighted the tension between the individual and the state, a recurring theme in Shakespeare's work. So rebellion, authority, again, you know, of course rebels होते थे, authority को question किया जाता था, challenge किया जाता था, ये अक्सर देखते हैं हम लोग, चाहे वो King Lear हो, चाहे वो Macbeth हो, चाहे वो Hamlet हो, you know, all those plays, they were talking about ambition, authority, questioning the authority, challenging the authority, rebellions, okay? So the balance between individual ambition and moral order is central to his plays. Now contrasting it with medieval drama. अगर हम medieval drama को देखें, if every one of you can recall what I told about medieval drama, it was basically religious. Why? Because medieval drama कहाँ से आया था? Churches से आया था, right? Church में performance होता था, biblical stories बताई जाती थी ताकि लोगों को समझ में आए, okay? कि Bible में लिखा क्या है? Bible was not accessible. Why? Because it was written in Latin. Latin तो सबको नहीं आती थी, तो this was one reason. So if we see the contrast with medieval drama, वो बहुत intense contrast है. While medieval drama emphasized divine order, God's design, biblical stories, Renaissance drama, when we come to the Shakespearean era, Renaissance drama focused on human complexity, moral ambiguity, मतलब morally flawed characters होते थे, human characters होते थे जो कि mistakes करते थे. Okay, so हम भी like when do we relate to anyone? When someone commits a mistake, अगर हमें क्यों पसंद आता है कोई भी, अगर हम सिनेमा भी देखें, अब हम लोग को रियलिस्टिक मूवी समझ में आती है ज़्यादा क्योंकि we are able to relate, क्योंकि ठीक है ये flaw हमारे अंदर भी है. So this started, human nature started becoming the focus of everything. Then we have examples from history plays like Henry VI. So this portrayed as a weak and indecisive monarch. Now if we talk about कि कैसे ह्यूमन नेचर को रिलेटेबल बनाया गया लोगों से और यू नो मोर अक्वेंट किया गया. सो हेनरी द सिक्स्थ में हेनरी द सिक्स्थ इज पोर्ट्रेट एज अ वीक एंड इनडिसाइसिव मोनार्क. शुड द किंग एवर बी इनडिसाइसिव? डिसीजंस नहीं ले पा रहा है, अनवाइज है, समझ में नहीं आया, इतना स्मार्ट नहीं है, बट ये था, ओके. एंड इसी तरह से शेक्सपियर इसको दिखाया था दैट हेनरी द सिक्स्थ वाज पोर्ट्रेट एज अ वीक एंड इनडिसाइसिव मोनार्क, reflecting the challenges of leadership and the consequences of poor governance. Okay, so this was something that was there. Henry V, इसके बाद Henry V, contrast Prince Hal's carefree youth, Henry IV part 1 and part 2, with his mature and heroic transformation as Henry V. तो Henry IV जो part 1 part 2 से पहले आया था, फिर Henry V, इसमें जो Prince Hal होते हैं, जो बेटे होते होंगे Henry IV के, Henry V, right? तो वो कैसे उनका केयरफ्री नेचर था पहले प्लेस में, और अब जब वो आता है, when he wears the crown, when he becomes a monarch, how mature, decisive, intelligent, wise he becomes. So his mature and heroic transformation as King Henry V. So Prince Hal, from a carefree, nonchalant character to somebody who's very mature and explores his leadership at the Battle of Agincourt and his awkwardness in wooing the French princess. Okay, so awkwardness in wooing the French princess. Matlab, you know, even the kings feel awkward to impress a girl. Okay, so these are all aspects that Shakespeare so with humor told all these aspects. So of course, relatable hoga. So Richard III, a Machiavellian villain who epitomizes evil but also fascinates a theatrical character. Okay, so Richard III, I have read the Richard III, like मेरे course में थी ये वाला work, and it's actually a very well written work because Richard III को एक ऐसा दिखाया गया है वेयर इन जो उसके साथ हुआ वो भी गलत हुआ, लेकिन जो उसने किया उसने और ज़्यादा गलत किया. तो you know it was morally ambiguous. morally unclear. But of course, it's wonderful work. You should read this work, and explores the downfall of Richard III as the enemy of the Tudor dynasty. ट्यूडर डायनेस्टी से कौन था? एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट. एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट के फादर के ग्रैंडफादर के बहुत बड़ा एनिमी था रिचर्ड द थर्ड. और जब एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट ने देखा रिचर्ड द थर्ड के अच्छा मेरे ग्रैंडफादर को हीरो बनाया, रिचर्ड थर्ड को इतना बुरा दिखाया, ऑफ कोर्स शी वुड बी हैप्पी, राइट? पर्पस वाज दैट ओनली, है ना? चलो, देन वी हैव themes in Shakespeare's history plays. अगर हम हिस्ट्री प्लेस के बारे में बात करें, so these were the historical plays. So kingship and leadership, as we discussed, kingship and leadership थी. Examines the balance between the role of king and the humanity, power and ambition, moral ambiguity, and relating to the public. Also, these were the aspects जो कि Shakespeare wanted in his work. Okay, कि public से relate करे, morally ambiguous, so power and ambition and all. Okay, then moving ahead. Shakespeare's themes and contribution to drama, revolutionary ideas in political context. Political context में कैसे revolutionary ideas आए थे? The king as a flawed figure, the king as somebody जिसके अंदर बहुत खामियां हैं, ज़रूरी नहीं कि बस खूबियां हो. So Shakespeare explores the idea that a king, the closest figure to God. Okay, why? Because king was considered that he is the closest to God. Okay, तो ये था ना कि ये एक डिवाइन ब्लेसिंग है, डिवाइन ऑर्डर यही है कि गॉड के बाद किंग इज द वन हु इज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द एंटायर किंगडम. सो दिस वाज द रीजन ही वाज सो अनक्वेश्चनेबल. ओके, सो शेक्सपियर एक्सप्लोर्स द आइडिया दैट अ किंग, द क्लोजेस्ट फिगर, कुड बी करप्ट, कुड बी इविल. ओके, तो इसने ये सब दिखाया. दिस कॉन्सेप्ट वाज रैडिकल इन 1590s. गाइस, ये कॉन्सेप्ट अभी तो हमें बहुत समझ आ रहा है, लेकिन उस टाइम रैडिकल था, बहुत रेवोल्यूशनरी आइडिया था. A king being projected on the stage as somebody who has flaws. Okay, so this is the reason that Shakespeare became such a hit at that time, and raising the possibility that rulers could be replaced by the people. Themes in major works, Richard III, Julius Caesar, Coriolanus, all explore the consequences of flawed leadership. Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, all flawed leadership. तो लीडर्स हमारे क्या फ्लॉड हो सकते हैं? होते हैं, तभी तो वर्ड्स होती हैं, तभी तो प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं. तो ओके, सो वी लुक अप टू देम with so much of dignity, so much of reverence, but they are also humans. They can also commit mistakes, and that is exactly what Shakespeare was showing them. All right, next we have the Renaissance and the evolving ideas. Now, Shakespeare and the Renaissance, when you talk about this, his work reflects the transition from medieval idea to Renaissance humanism. Renaissance humanism matlab focus on the human nature, human abilities, human being the center of the universe. Themes examine the struggle between history and the emerging modern worldview. Of course, things were getting modernized, सब कुछ medieval तो नहीं रहेगा ना. Re-evaluating fundamental concepts, Shakespeare characters frequently ask existential questions. Why are we here? What are we doing in this world? What is our purpose? And this Hamlet में बहुत प्यारा इसने बोला है, what is a man? If his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feast, a beast no more. क्या है वो आदमी जिसका बस पर्पस है कि वो खाए, वो खोए, सोए, and that is all. He's a beast, he's an animal. Why are you in this world? Okay, so these are the questions that he had asked in his plays. Then universal themes and theatrical possibilities. When you talk about universal themes, something that is still valid in today's time: love, revenge, ambition, rebellion, challenges, authority, power. So over here we see love, tragic, Romeo and Juliet, Antony, Cleopatra, comic, love's labor, lost, twelfth night, as you like it. I've just categorized the plays into their genres. जहाँ पे love की अगर बात होती है तो tragic ये था, comic ये था, revenge and duty में explored in Hamlet, jealousy very central to Othello. किसी ने अगर ओमकारा देखी, इनफैक्ट विशाल भारद्वाज के हैदर भी जो Hamlet पे based है, beautiful work. Othello, I haven't seen Othello Omkara, but I have heard it's a good work. And of course, Makbul, that is Macbeth. Okay, so can you see that how even 600 years back, work is still relevant, and relevant not only in English world, in the world of English people, but in Indian cinema as well. Okay, so yes, how kitna universally accepted has Shakespeare, and that is what makes him such a different legendary figure still. Sexual corruption and justice addressed in Measure for Measure, misanthropy, rejection of society seen in Timon of Athens. So look at the diversity of the themes that Shakespeare was doing at that time. Family rejection and madness, a dominant theme in King Lear, wherein King Lear is completely rejected by his daughters, Regan, Gondrel, and Cordelia is the good one. So these characters are shown. Family relationships बहुत अच्छे दिखाए गए. द बागबान इसके ऊपर यू कैन सी कि उस पे अभी तक रेलिवेंट है. Money and minority vulnerability explored in The Merchant of Venice, healing and hope for the future depicted in the plays like The Winter's Tale and historical pageantry. Shakespeare's final return to history in Henry VIII reflects the origins of the English Reformation. उसका जो last work था जॉन फ्लेचर के साथ जो उसने लिखा था Henry VIII, it talks about, again it was a historical work. Okay, then you have abstract and universal themes. If we talk about this, key themes: ambition, power, love, death, revenge, and justice, explored on both society and individual level. Characters embodying themes. So Shakespeare characters from kings to soldiers speak directly to the audience in relatable language, not in difficult language. Unki common bhasha, the vernacular language that was at that time of England, it used to speak in that language. Of course, again another point to relate. Modern English, Shakespeare's language bridges the gap between the Middle English of Chaucer, जो चौसर थे जिनने कैंटरबरी टेल्स लिखी गई थी, जिनको फादर ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर बोला जाता है, and modern English evolving less in the 400 years since his time than it had in the 150 years before. So yes, during the period of Shakespeare era, when Shakespeare was dominating, so English modernized itself a lot. As it is, Shakespeare is introduced thousands and thousands of words himself. So yes, because of him, English expanded a lot as a language. Now the theatre as a vehicle. Now, when we look at theatre as a vehicle, Shakespeare used the theatre to discuss philosophical, political, and moral questions. Okay, so these were all ideas that he discussed through the medium of theatre. Usko stage mil jaye bas, and here was Shakespeare with pouring all the ideas that he had. Dramatic forms: Titus Andronicus, model on Seneca's blood tragedy. Seneca was a very Greek classical playwright. उनके bloodshed बहुत होता था वर्क पे, रिवेंज ट्रेजेडी पे लिखते थे शेक्सपियर. द कॉमेडी ऑफ एरर्स, प्लॉटस जो एक रोमन कॉमेडियन थे, रोमन प्ले राइट थे, कॉमेडी लिखते थे, वो इसके ऊपर बेस्ड थी. And innovation, Shakespeare expanded on classical forms, doubling the twins' confusion, the comedy of errors, and constantly experimented with dramatic technique in his career. Then you have legacy and contribution, expanding dramatic horizon. Shakespeare ka plays are a blend of history, comedy, tragedy, and romantic, with the focus on character development and universal themes. If you actually break down Shakespeare ka, you will come down to this. This is also a very relevant point to be written in your exam papers if it comes, that Shakespeare's plays are a blend. They assimilate, they bring together history, comedy, tragedy, romance, with the focus on character development and universal themes. Okay, timeless language. His works remain influential because of the enduring relevance, poetic depth, very insightful questions that he used to address, and accessibility to audience across centuries. Okay, so जहाँ पे accessible मिल गया, like audience से relate करना शुरू कर दिया, that thing can never fail. Okay, Shakespeare's plays, key insights and contribution. Structure and addition. Okay, so structure में क्या बदलाव लाए? What change did he bring in the structure of the play? पहले अलग स्ट्रक्चर चलता था, कभी 3 एक्ट का स्ट्रक्चर चलता था, बट देन ही ब्रॉट अ 5 एक्ट स्ट्रक्चर. आप कोई भी प्ले पढ़ोगे शेक्सपियर का, एवरी प्ले विल हैव 5 एक्ट. सीन्स अलग हो सकते हैं, हो सकता है किसी एक्ट में 2 सीन हो, किसी में 3 हो, किसी में 4 हो, बट एक्ट हमेशा 5 रहते थे. सो ही ब्रॉट इन द मॉडल ऑफ 5 एक्ट्स. So 5 act structure. All Shakespeare's plays are known today in a standard 5 act form. The division was not originally. Shakespeare was imposed later by editors like Nicholas Rowe. So Shakespeare ने ऐसे plays लिखे थे that he never imposed acts, but it was only by Nicholas Rowe that such acts were there. Okay, so इसने divide जितने भी इसने acts किए थे, Nicholas Rowe was the one, but his structure of the entire play was that yes, it could be considered into 5 parts. As I mentioned, that Shakespeare never wrote the plays to be read. Okay, he always wanted to be performed. So 5 parts में जो plays का performance होता था, वो later eventually जाके 5 act हो गया, जो निकोलस रो ने किया था 1709, 100 years later. Okay, Quartos and the first folio. So as I mentioned that even उसका जो पहले set of plays थे, that were also published much later in 1623. डेथ कब हुई है? 1616 में. तो मतलब शेक्सपियर का जो वर्क्स है वो उसके लाइफ टाइम तक में ही पब्लिश नहीं हुआ था. नथिंग केम इन रिटन फॉर्म. 1623 में. सो अर्ली एडिशंस ऑफ हिज प्लेस कॉल्ड क्वार्टर्स वर पब्लिश ड्यूरिंग शेक्सपियर्स लाइफ टाइम, बट द फर्स्ट वॉल्यूम, मतलब क्वार्टर्स आते थे, एक हैमलेट का प्रिंट होके आ गया, मिकबेथ का आ गया, कोटोज आ गए, लेकिन full fledged a collection of his work did not get published in Shakespeare lifetime, but first folio आया है with around 23 plays, and this was in 1623 compiled by John Hemming and Henry Condell. दो लोग थे, John Hemming and Henry Condell, included many of his work but also variation in text and structures. Of course there would be variation. So yes, 1623 में Condell and Hemming were the one who published his work after his death. Okay, then you have themes and philosophical insights, affirmation and challenge of values. Shakespeare supports the need for a strong monarch but questions the automatic right to power. He was always challenging, he was subtly challenging the authority, लेकिन वो कभी भी ऐसा नहीं था कि उसके प्ले से कोई रिबेलियन हो जाए या कोई इसका प्ले बैन हो जाए. Okay, so emphasizing worthiness over entitlement, historical adaptation. Shakespeare alters history, truth for dramatic effect. Richard III portrays Richard as a villain to support the Tudor legitimacy. As I mentioned, Richard III के साथ बुरा हुआ था, लेकिन उसने जब उसका प्ले परफॉर्म हुआ था रिचर्ड III का, तो ट्यूडर डायनेस्टी को, क्योंकि रिचर्ड III ने क्वेश्चन किया था, ट्यूडर डायनेस्टी की कौन थी, एलिजाबेथ I, उनको इम्प्रेस करना था, तो उसने एकदम मैकियावेलियन कैरेक्टर, यू नो, वेरी वेरी ग्रेटली विलेनियस कैरेक्टर दिखाया गया था उसको. And Macbeth turns into historical just king into a tyrant, and this is how he's shown the historical adaptations. Human imperfection. His work celebrates human flaws and individuality, shows them as valuable and necessary aspects of humanity. Macbeth reflects on ambition and moral dilemma. So, you know, if you look at certain lines of Macbeth or of all those characters, they're full of profundity, they're full of substance, depth, wisdom. So this blow might be the be all and the end all here. Okay, so ambition and moral dilemmas mentioned over here. Wisdom of fools. Now, fools is a very wonderful character that Shakespeare had included, especially his tragic plays, जैसे King Lear में या कोई भी romantic plays में भी होते थे, wherein the character was considered a fool, but that character was the one to give the most wisdom, the most intelligent lines. Okay, छोटा character होता था, but very in-depth character. जैसे Falstaff को fool दिखाया गया, but he says very full of wisdom things. Okay, so fools and clowns in Shakespeare's plays serve as comic relief and offer profound truths. So comic relief भी, क्योंकि fools होते थे तो वो लोग कुछ भी हंसी मजाक कर देते, especially tragic plays में जहाँ पे इतना intense चल रहा है, you need a character who talks some rubbish so that, you know, it makes you laugh and थोड़ा सा light कर दे उस moment को. But you know, they also had the profundity of truth. Okay, they used to speak the truth, very full of wisdom words. So for instance, King Lear में fool कहता है, when we are born we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. तो कहते हैं, why do we cry when we are born? When we are born, then we cry because, oh no, why have we come on this in this world, why have we come on this stage of fools? Okay, so this is by a fool says this in King Lear tragic play hai. Then you have iconic characters and the universal themes, guys. As I mentioned, Falstaff को बहुत important character है because Queen Elizabeth I का बहुत well loved character था. So Henry IV part 1 part 2 में आया and Mary Wives of Windsor में आया है. Okay, so 1 2 3 plays में Falstaff repeatedly आया. He was so well loved. Fool tha but full of wisdom. Okay, so humorous, cynical, pleasure loving adventure, Queen Elizabeth favorite character, inspiring the Merry Wives of Windsor. Romeo Juliet, embodiments of young. We know Romeo Juliet is कितना सारे इसके ऊपर movies बनी, Romeo Juliet के iconic characters हैं ये. Lady Macbeth is also an iconic character. Okay, so seen as a strong scheming figure, sometimes likened to Fourth Witch, represents ambition and guilt. And then Othello and Desdemona, these are all very iconic famous characters. A union of Mars, Warren and Dinah, virgin destroyed by Iago's manipulation. So Omkara mein, I think Ajay Devgan was the one who's Othello and Kareena Kapoor becomes a Desdemona. Okay, so these were the characters. Shylock, the Merchant of Venice, a complex character, both traditional stage Jew and deeply human. Okay, complex character दिखाया गया है Merchant of Venice में जो Jew होता है, and Shylock is a Jew, and उसमें किस तरह से उसको portray किया गया, it's anti-Semitic, anti-Semitism is also there. Okay, so then you have Shakespeare's women strength, femininity, and ambiguity. Okay, so Shakespeare's women were very strong. You know, Shakespeare's women have often been shown as the more intelligent of the male characters, and this is very interesting. For instance, in like they were forceful modern Renaissance characters. Shakespeare women Shakespeare women are portrayed as strong, as assertive, as those who have some will, some grit, determination, and they're very modern Renaissance characters balancing strength with femininity. Example, Adriana, the comedy of errors, Katerina, the taming of the shrew, and Helena, all's well that ends well. Untraditional femininity, and women often challenge patriarchal norms while appearing to conform by the end of the play. And Catherine's submission to Petruchio, the taming of the shrew, is a theatrically ambiguous presented as part of a play within a play. Okay, so these are all characters, female characters बहुत strong है. In fact, चाहे वो Portia हो Merchant of Venice में, चाहे वो Lady Macbeth हो Macbeth में, और many characters are there. Even Rosalind in As You Like It. Okay, so full of assertion, full of determination. So role reversal and leadership. Now role reversal as in cross dressing बहुत होता था in the plays. So female characters often lead to or tame men. Okay, so female characters were the one dictating orders कि ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए. For instance, Rosalind जैसे वो order देती है As You Like It में, so that is a wonderful example. Rosalind, As You Like It, and Viola, Twelfth Night dress as men and guide Orlando and Orsino to self-discovery. Okay, तो Rosalind Orlando को guide करती है and Viola guide करती है Orsino को to self-discover yourself. Questioning gender roles, Emilia in Othello, जो character है Emilia Othello में होती है, वो कहती है, but I do think that it is their husband's fault if wives do fall. So सब लोग Desdemona को शक ने कुछ गलत नहीं किया होता है, but Desdemona को बोला जाता है कि इसने एक extra marital affair किया है. तो यहाँ पे Emilia बोल रही है that you know why is a woman blamed if she goes to love someone else? It should always be the husband to blame. Why? Because the husband did not love the woman enough. Okay, so it's a very powerful line said especially 600 years back, but I do think it is their husband's fault if wives do fall. Okay, so challenges the norms of male dominance, representation of women. Mothers, अगर हम लोग देखें, so what are the strong characters? Mothers, Volumnia Coriolanus में, Gertrude Hamlet में, Queen Margaret Richard III में, very, very important characters and very strong assertive characters. Young lovers, Juliet, Ophelia, Miranda, strong masculine figures. Portia, the Merchant of Venice, is the one जो कि Antonio को बचाती है मरने से. Okay, he is going to be punished to death, but Portia is the one who uses her intelligence and saves him. Okay, and Lady Macbeth in Macbeth. So guys, yes, Shakespeare's claim to be one of the best legendary figures as a dramatist, playwright, does not only rest on the fact that he wrote all these plays, but of course on the character, especially women, female characters. It wasn't easy. 600 years back to portray women as strong-willed characters, not easy. In fact, women were not even allowed to be on the stage and perform. ये जितने भी female characters होते थे, men used to dress up like females and perform. It was only like you know restoration age drama जब आया था कि जब female actors को performance का मौका मिला था. Okay, so moving ahead, you have Hamlet, a central discussion in Shakespeare's work. Now Hamlet एक बहुत ही different kind of place के ऊपर बहुत discussions हुए हैं guys. A lot of discussion that happened and this makes it very, very important. And जो कि UPSC के syllabus में नहीं है, UPSC के syllabus में King Lear है और The Tempest है, but Hamlet is considered as a very, very important play. So talking about that, just a second. So a central discussion Shakespeare's work, character complexity. Why is Hamlet so popular? Because of the character complexity. So Hamlet is a very complex character. He's very indecisive. He does not know what he's doing, whether you know at the end audience को ये भी होता है कि ये जो सोच रहा है या बोल रहा है कुछ मतलब इसमें substance भी. For instance, he imagines the ghost of his father and then he doubts whether he actually saw or he did not. So very, very indecisive, ambiguous character. So Hamlet has been interpreted as a melancholic, very sad, melancholic, neurotic, trouble, mental disorder, indecisive, decision nahi le pa raha, and still heroic, very brave, embodying the Renaissance prince, you know, like a Renaissance prince, a little confused. So his famous soliloquy, jo bhi hai, to be or not to be. ये सबको सुना है. And to be or not to be grapples with existential questions, weighing reasons for living against despair. So I will honestly say that guys कि जो ये हैदर आई थी विशाल भारद्वाज की movie, and when I saw the movie I could actually feel that yes, that movie has been beautifully crafted. जितना alignment लाया गया Hamlet से, I don't think any movie could have done it. So it's a very underrated movie. And I think it's whenever you want to have a little entertainment, do watch that movie, give it a shot. It's a wonderful work. 7 soliloquies. See, chart Hamlet's journey from despair to acceptance. जो 7 soliloquies हैं. So Hamlet में 7 soliloquies हैं. Soliloquies are those time when जो stage पे character अकेले बोलता है and he's just addressing the audience. Okay, so the central soliloquy जो सबसे main soliloquy है, to be or not to be, reflects his inner conflict over existence and action. To be or not to be, to do or not to do, करें या ना करें, you know, this kind of, he goes on about this, and it's a wonderful soliloquy. Struggle of becoming. Hamlet's journey is about reconciling with life's challenges and accepting its imperfection. The readiness is all. The readiness is all. एक और इसका एक ending के line होती है end में जब वो बोलता है, the readiness is all that, you know, whenever you are ready, you execute the plan. Okay, so he's kind of talking, but because uska in execution, he is so indecisive, but because of his indecisiveness, itna havoc create hota hai. Everyone dies at the end. Hamlet, Gertrude, Claudius, Ophelia, everyone dies, and that is because of his indecisiveness. Okay, then moving ahead. Exploration of human nature, human flaws and defects. Shakespeare emphasizes human imperfection as intrinsic to individual vitality. So this is the way he's showing that a human is imperfect. Nobody is full of perfections. Characters like Lady Macbeth, Iago, and Shylock expose moral vulnerabilities. Wisdom in fools. Clowns and fools deliver profound truths in seemingly comic roles. So wisdom fools में दिखाया गया, जैसे King Lear में क्या बोलता है, when we are born we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools, as I mentioned. And historical flexibility. Shakespeare adapts historical truth for dramatic effect, as in Macbeth and Richard III. So all these things is done. Then you have Shakespeare's open-ended morality. No easy solutions. Okay, Shakespeare never gave easy solutions in his plays. Everybody had something or the other to take away. किसी का perception अलग होगा, किसी का perception अलग होगा. It makes you think. Anything that makes you think, anything that provokes your thought is to be cherished, isn't it? So talking about this, Shakespeare does not offer fixed moral conclusion in his play. Audience must interpret situations and themes on their own, adding universality in his works. Okay, so when you read any of his plays, everyone can have their own perception. It's so universal. King Lear and themes of nothing. Cordelia's refusal to flatter Lear with false words leads to the collapse of family and power. Okay, so for instance, we talk about King Lear and the theme of nothing. So उसमें जो Cordelia होती है, so King Lear का story बहुत simple है. उसमें होता है कि उसकी 3 बेटियां होती हैं, Gondrel, Regan and Cordelia. वो कहता है जो बेटी मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा मुझे praise करेगी, मैं उसको अपना kingdom दे दूँगा. तो जो genuinely प्यार करती होती है Cordelia, generally अपने father को बहुत ही respect देती होती है. वो कहती है that, you know, I don't believe in this false flattery. I love you, you should know that, and I genuinely love you. And Cordelia and Regan and Gondrel, who do not love the father at all, they give false flattery कि बहुत प्यार करते हैं and all that. The father will love you, will respect you, this and that. You are this, you are that. And Cordelia does not engage. Cordelia is thrown out. Gondrel and Regan get the entire kingdom, and this is how the downfall comes. Because Gondrel and Regan ultimately they become the villain, and they at the end everyone dies. Okay, so Lear is reduced from a mighty king to a poor barefoot animal, representing the fragility of human authority. And Edgar को जो end में character है, Edgar good character होता है, responds, ripeness is all. Contrast Lear's suffering, implying wisdom comes through experience. So you know, it's like ripeness is all. When you are, what is ripe? Ripe is maturity. Maturity सब कुछ होता है, experience से सब कुछ होता है. जब आप mature होगे ना, you will lead a. If maturity can come at any point of your time in your life, even when you're a kid, you're adolescent, adulthood, old age, or maybe sometimes even old people are not that mature, they're not ripe. So उसमें क्या था? Readiness is all. Hamlet में क्या था? Readiness is all. That when you're prepared, you do it. इसमें क्या था? Ripeness is all. Experience is everything. Okay, so maturity is everything. Then you have Shakespeare's perspective of power in society, redefining leadership and authority. Shakespeare portrays power struggle and political turmoil, but does not explicitly advocate for revolution. He supports monarchy as a stabilizing force, but he questions the worthiness of rulers. वो monarchy को दिखा रहे, but वो challenge भी करता था, not explicitly, not that कि monarchy को offend कर दे, but yes, he was questioning their role. Lack of fixed morals, unlike later moralist literature, Shakespeare works remain ambiguous and historical context. The 1649 execution of Charles I mirrors Hamlet's theme of flawed monarchy leading to a nation's downfall. Historical context भी दिखाया गया है इसमें. Then coming the late plays, जो उसके late plays थे, the shift in tone after the political tragedies like Coriolanus, Antony, Cleopatra. Shakespeare's final play embraced optimism. उसके final plays में उसने थोड़ा optimism दिखाया था after the tragic plays that he wrote. Ultimately, when he was about to say goodbye to the theater, he brought optimism on the stage. Plays like The Tempest, they talk about, Tempest and Pericles, explore redemption, harmony, and reconciliation, and influence of travel and exploration when we talk about that. So the Renaissance era's fascination with new lands and colonial ventures reflected in The Tempest, and the play mirrors the themes of exile, conquest, and culture dominance. So yes, it talks about different themes, but still it was a very happy ending play. And then Caliban and colonialism. Caliban की जो speech होती है, जो Caliban character होता है Tempest में, उसका भी एक colonial aspect दिखाया गया है. This Island's Mind by Sycorax, my mother. A great deal of colonialism has been explored by literary critics in The Tempest. It's a very must explored question. In fact, you should also you should read about this and explore कि कैसे literary critics ने बोला है. And mask influence, late plays incorporate elements of the mask. Mask क्या होते थे? Very elaborated, beautiful sets. जैसे संजय लीला भंसाली के होते हैं. हमेशा मैं मास्क जब भी बात करती हूँ, I talk about संजय लीला भंसाली से, they're very beautiful. तो towards the end मास्क आने लगे थे. Improve होता है थिएटर धीरे धीरे. So मास्क आने लगे थे. And शेक्सपियर के प्लेस में वो भी बहुत दिखा था. Okay. So themes of transience and the human condition. So theatrical metaphor for life. Shakespeare repeatedly compares human existence to a fleeting stage for performance. So yes, theatrical metaphor for life. He often, compared life to something that is very transient. Okay, जैसे Macbeth में बहुत प्यारी lines है ये. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that strut and frets in this hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. King Lear में बोलता है, when we are born, we cry that we are come to this stage of food. So yes, it's talking a lot about life, very philosophical, very insightful. So this is there. And then contrast between pre-Reformation and Renaissance views. Medieval belief in eternal life provided optimism. The Renaissance refined human existence as transient, fragile, and often harsh. The Renaissance gave a little more realistic aspect as compared to the medieval period. And audience engagement, of course, Shakespeare के साथ audience engagement increased to another level. Shakespeare's plays do not allow passive observation. Audiences drawn into the experience, feeling the joy and suffering and transformation of characters and think about life. Okay. And then, so guys, with this, I'm coming to an end of my Renaissance Part 3 Shakespeare. All about Shakespeare. We discussed the themes, the characters, the audience, the theater, the socio-political context, what kind of themes he wrote, why he wrote, and the different ideas that he explored in his plays. So this was the Renaissance Part 3. Now we'll be moving ahead soon to the Jacobean period. So I hope जिन्हीं ने भी मेरे previous parts नहीं देखे हैं, if you really want to have a very holistic idea of the historical cultural context of Renaissance period in the time of Queen Elizabeth, do give these videos a watch. So I'll see you again next week, and I hope you enjoy the lessons and learn a lot from them. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.